But what they want to do right now, as you can see, the speed's not terribly too dangerous or too fast, so they can wait and see, kind of trail behind. And what they want to do is they want to get into an ideal area where that type of movement or that type of maneuver may be advantageous for them to do. And as you can see, there was a passenger. There's a shot there from Air 7 HD. There is a passenger side in that vehicle, and there's a lot of movement inside that the passenger area of the vehicle, which is a concern to police officers. They don't know what's going on here. It looks like there possibly is a male in that passenger seat. So that's going to also determine how they handle this pursuit. And you see that this car is circling up within the same area of South Los Angeles, which is also a concern. Does this driver or this passenger know people in this area? Are they leading officers into an area that might be very dangerous for them to be in? So we want to make sure, you can see all those people out on the street, they want to make sure that they handle this very, very carefully. But by all means, a pit maneuver, a pursuit intervention technique is very possible. Another spike strip, again, very possible, as you see that left front tire nearly down to the rims. That rubber is about to come off that tire, and that's going to make it extremely difficult for this driver to handle this vehicle. So right now, it's a wait and see. There's no extreme, immediate danger to stop her, although she is going through stop signs. It is not extremely reckless, so they're going to see what happens here. Stay loose behind her until they find an advantageous position to take her into custody and him into custody.
And if there is a male passenger or any passenger in the car, that definitely could change the scenario. Is the driver being forced to drive around? Is there a hostage? Oh, we see some sparks now. Yeah. The tread just given way on the tire there on the front tire.
And Ruta Bay, what we just saw, David, in Ruta Bay is also the passenger is throwing things out of the vehicle.
Right.
Now, that's some sort of contraband or weapons. Now, the CHP behind them are documenting every position that's thrown out. They're going to have officers behind recover that, whether it's drug paraphernalia or any type of contraband. That's going to be recovered and used as evidence in this pursuit. And you can see that tire and that rim starting to come apart.
Yeah, it's going down now. We understand that they are near Fremont High School. If you're familiar with the area, that's where they're driving through right now. And we are hearing from witnesses saying that they are seeing her throw some items out the window. So that's good to know, JT, that they're on top of that. They're documenting that, etc. How does having a passenger change the scenario here for law enforcement?
Well, it depends on what the original want for it is. Right now, law enforcement officers, at least what we're learning here at ABC7, is that the vehicle is wanted as a stolen vehicle. So right now, that's grand theft auto. But the fact that the passenger in the vehicle, the male passenger, is throwing evidence out the window, there could be more going on here. And that's always the danger in law enforcement. They're not really sure what they have. They may have run the plate and made that come back stolen, but this vehicle could have and possibly been used in many crimes that they don't know about yet. So it's always a very dangerous situation, especially when you have a passenger that you don't know what they're wanted for, and that this pursuit continues. You can see all that movement in that passenger vehicle with that suspect getting his hands underneath the floorboard, underneath the seat, all dangerous signs for law enforcement to look out for.
Whoa.
When they don't know exactly what they have.
Look at that. So
yeah, a lot of sparks flying.
She doesn't have a lot of options when it comes to maneuverability. I mean, there's only so far she's going to be able to go now that she's down to the rims and sparking like crazy. I understand that this might be the Vermont Knolls neighborhood of South LA, at least somewhere near there. As we mentioned, near Fremont High School.
And just a minute ago, we did get a shot of that passenger, definitely a passenger, where it looked like wearing a white sweatshirt or something in the passenger seat of the car. Looked like he or she was bending over, trying to maneuver something in the car.
Right, and it looks like it's hard to tell if there's still tread or the tire's normal on the passenger side, the front passenger side. Definitely the front driver's side. That's the car, that's the tire that's now doing the sparking, which we've mentioned that earlier in this broadcast, how these spike strips, sometimes it's kind of a slow progression, but eventually they take their toll on these cars. First the tire will lose air, then tread, and then be down to the rims, and then you'll see the sparks fly. And as I said before, sometimes we've even seen cars catch on fire due to the sparks flying and the car trying to drive on rims. But very, very poor maneuverability for this driver.
Yeah, definitely something is going to develop out of this, but not many possibilities with no front tires. So that spike strip, we know now, it was successful in slowing this driver down. Again, in the Vermont Knolls neighborhood now, going over, looks like speed bump divots there in a residential neighborhood. The sun has gone down. You can now see the spotlight from the helicopter. And luckily, not a lot of people on this particular, oh yeah, there are people actually standing on this street corner, and that is always a dangerous scenario. It's worrying when you see people out in the path like that.
Yeah, we see that quite often, especially the more high profile these pursuits become, the more people hear about it, and then they want to run outside and not necessarily take part in it, but maybe see it. I mean, it goes all the way back to OJ. It's one of those phenomenons that just happens here in Los Angeles, where these police pursuits, they take on their own identity, and then people, they all kind of flock out there to watch it. It's a dangerous thing to do, especially if the pursuit gets out of hand, becomes violent, it becomes too fast. At least in this case so far, things are relatively under control, considering the fact that, there you see it, the sparks from that front wheel, definitely there's no tread left, and so maneuverability is tricky.
And we're hearing now that LAPD has...
Now back in the city of Los Angeles, looks like they're northbound on Central, and looks like they're going to be making a westbound, I believe, turn on 74th Street. So to come out of the LA County area and now back in the city of Los Angeles, even though CHP has the lead on this, LAPD is closely monitoring the situation with both the Air Support Division and on the radios to monitor where exactly this is. So if they need to get into that area and assist CHP with setting up a perimeter if these suspects run into this neighborhood and locking that down, LAPD will assist with that. And that looks like it might be what happens here if that does terminate within the city of Los Angeles.
And LAPD is saying that this is a female driver, and they may or may not have taken over for the CHP. The CHP originally took over for LAPD when she got on the 105 and the 110 freeways, now back in South LA in residential neighborhoods. So it looks like the LAPD may have taken over again, but they are saying that this is a female driver. And we did see with our own eyes from that helicopter shot that there was a passenger in the car, at least one passenger.
That passenger is said to be the person that might be throwing things out of the vehicle. So we don't know exactly what, though. We've been reporting that, but perhaps it's contraband of some sort, maybe drugs, maybe we haven't heard of anything about weapons just yet, but we just don't know the details. So while we're telling you they're throwing something out, we still don't know what exactly that is.
And how long ago was that, David, when they put the spike strip down? At least 10, 15
let's see,
minutes,
it's 7:22 right now, and I would say that was within the 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of this broadcast. So it's about 15 minutes ago, I would say, somewhere around there, that they hit it with the spike strips, and then we saw it take its toll.
And, you know, still continuing to drive. And again, as David pointed out earlier, only so much time she has in this car before it starts to completely fall apart. Already the two front tires have lost their tread, it looks like.
Our producer tells us, Matt Worcester says it's 7:05. They threw that spike strip. So, yeah, right about 5 minutes into the pursuit that we had it on this broadcast, they hit that car. So it's 7:22 now, so 12 was 15, 17 minutes ago, 18 minutes ago. That car has been driving, you know, basically handicapped.
And possibly oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Rudabeh. One of the things that's unfortunate about this is it looks like they were only able to get that left front tire. Now, we still have 3 good tires on this vehicle, and we've seen pursuits where vehicles with 3 good tires, even 2 good tires, have gone on for a substantial amount of time here. So that is unfortunate, as it looks like they just turned off 63rd, and I believe they're back northbound. But you can really see that rim starting to spark up right now, and even that right front headlight is just dangling there. So there's quite a bit of damage from this vehicle. It almost looks like the vehicle may have been involved in a traffic collision somewhere along this pursuit as well. But right now, as they continue north, I believe that's northbound. We'll have to get that verified. But again, still going in the wrong direction, of the opposite side of the street. Very, very dangerous here. Even though they're at very slow speeds, a lot of pedestrians out as they cross over Firestone Boulevard here, and it looks like they're going to make that turn onto Firestone. And I believe that's back westbound. I'll have to get that verified on Firestone from about from 63rd area. So it is very, very dangerous right now, especially with her incapacitated on that vehicle, that tire. Is going to come a point, Rudabeh and David, that she does possibly lose control of that vehicle and not be able to stop in time and obviously put a lot of pedestrians and the other vehicles into danger as she heads back into the city of Los Angeles.
It is interesting. It's almost like a boat. You could see the front of that car kind of swimming around, probably when she's either trying to maneuver it in and out of the lanes or maybe even hit the brakes. You could see that front end just kind of shimmy just a bit, and then especially on those turns, really tough to keep that thing on, on its rails, on track when it's making those turns without that tread and that one tire. But you're right, JT, if they would have hit both tires, definitely would have handicapped that car quite a bit more. But with on those 3 tires, she refuses to give up. The good thing is, at least she's not gunning it and just going completely out of control. Uh-oh, let's see what's going on in here.
Looks like it's either, yeah, it is an alley.
Okay. Yeah, it almost looks like a driveway, but a narrow alley, making their way through, very little room for movement. Let's see what's on the other side of this. We don't know if this is unexplored territory or unknown territory for this vehicle.
And she seems to have been making kind of a lot of maneuvers in that way, going through parking lots, coming out the other side, now going through an alley.
Very dangerous when suspects lead officers into these areas because, again, more than likely this is an area that may be familiar to the suspects and not so familiar with the officers following, especially, or in pursuing, I should say, especially if they're in areas that's not from their original point of deployment. So you can see that they are slowing down, going through these alleys. More than likely, more times than not, they go back to areas eventually that they're familiar with, that they have possibly people that they know in the area that could offer them refuge if they do run, and we've seen that quite a bit when suspects do run into areas they're familiar with, jump over a few fences, hit a few fence lines and houses, and wind up in the backyard of someone they know and then get let in a back door. So that's always something that's very, very in the forefront of police officers' minds, and especially in an officer safety type situation, that they're being led into a possible ambush type situation. So that's always a very big concern as this pursuit continues.
Right, and we understand, as you predicted, JT, LAPD is now in charge of this pursuit as they make their way through I guess it was eastbound Firestone from Compton Avenue that it was driving, and now I'm not quite sure exactly where they are because of the multiple alleys. From what we understand, they're reporting that the speeds are low. They're 20 miles per hour or less because of maneuverability. But boy, there's a tight squeeze right there, Rita Bay.
Yeah, and just a second ago, you saw 2 pedestrians crossing the street. Very close call there. So low speeds, but definitely not being cautious, to say the least. Not paying attention to stop signs or traffic lights, and choosing to go into these narrow alleys and parking lots, coming out the other side. Kind of unclear what the goal is here for this driver, where she is trying to go. But now that the sun has gone down, you can see those sparks flying really well intermittently there. So just waiting and seeing what's going to happen.
This looks like it might be in the area down near the 60s, as far as near Long Beach Boulevard and that area in south maybe eastern Los Angeles, between the area of the county and the southern Los Angeles area. And what's unfortunate, again, David and Rita Bay, you see all the people that are coming out, and this almost becomes a spectator sport, and it is so dangerous that this situation could end very volatilely. We saw that in South Los Angeles just a few days ago on Thursday or Friday, and where a suspect got out with a weapon and in the middle of daylight and got into a shootout with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And there are a lot of people out in that area, and they can become in that crossfire. So it's very, very dangerous when this is in your area. It's not something you want to come out to the street and look at and wave at. And, by all means, you want to get your children and your family inside, because you never know how this is going to end. Yes, it's for a stolen vehicle, but we may not know what else is going on here. Like we said earlier, there could be all sorts of other wants for the suspect. Even the passenger could have a weapon. There's so many probabilities that this could end in, and you don't want any citizens in that crossfire. As this pursuit continues, it looks like they're going to be on 83rd Street, and it looks like they may be back in the county of Los Angeles.
And when there's a passenger in the car, there are so many different scenarios that could be possible there too. It could be that this driver is being forced to drive against her will, that the passenger has a weapon. It could be that the passenger is a kidnap victim, and we just don't know what's happening here. We don't even know. There could be more than one passenger. We just we don't know what the scenario is here. That's why it's so dangerous.
We're also hearing
neither do police. Rudabeh, you hit that on the head, nor do police. They know what the original warrant is for, but it's very difficult to know all the circumstances at that particular minute, what's going on in that vehicle.
There may be more tire damage than we know here, JT. We're getting reports from our desk that they're hearing that they may have multiple tires punctured here, even though one is down to the rim, the others are not. But they may have lost a couple of their tires on that one spike strip. That's at least what we're getting, and the car is down to less than 10 miles per hour, but still moving, refuses to give up, but only moving at an average speed of about 10 miles per hour.
It looks like that rim may be getting lower and lower, David and Rudabeh. You know, as that vehicle progresses without any rubber, that's just going to eat away at that rim till they get down to the brake pads and then finally to the axle. And there's going to be a point where that vehicle can become so low on that left front that it's not going to be able to continue fast at all.
Right.
And again, at that point, there is a supervisor in this pursuit, and that supervisor is in charge of balancing this pursuit. His job is to weigh everything out there against the danger to the public, danger to against how important it is to get the suspect in custody. They've got LAPD Air Support Division overhead making decisions, and it looks like it still may be CHP in the lead of this pursuit. It does not look like LAPD has taken it. The primary unit in this pursuit appears still to be CHP, so it looks like they've taken
you're right. We're getting an update now that CHP it's still their pursuit. Okay, so we do understand right now that our producers have been able to call up that spike strip hit, knocking out at least one of those tires that really handicaps this car. And you'll notice the CHP is right behind this car now. It is barely able to move, and the sparks are really flying.
And what I want to point out, David, is actually who deployed the spike strips there. That was the LA County Sheriff's Department.
That's what I thought. It looked like a Sheriff's Department, a deputy's uniform.
Yep. It is, and then that goes to show you the interagency operation with these types of pursuits. You got CHP, you got LAPD, and LA County Sheriffs all working together, communicating together to take the suspects into custody. Now you can see this passenger suspect hanging out the side of that passenger door. Very dangerous situation, talking to pedestrians. He's talking to that guy on the bike and giving him signals, and that's never a good thing. So what's going to happen at that point is they may have one of the units in the pursuit actually talk to that suspect. Do you know this guy? Who is he? What does he want? And actually take that suspect into custody, or at least detain him to be able to talk to him about what's going on here, because he definitely had communications with that suspect. You can see other vehicles getting involved, trying to block them in. That's never a good idea. You don't want to go head-to-head with a suspect vehicle because you don't know what's going on there. But again, we talked about this. Everybody's involved in this particular area. This female driver is circling through these neighborhoods and going past the same areas over and over again. Never a good sign as she picks up speed here on that rim, and you can see all those sparks coming out. Not a good situation here. The faster she goes, the lower that rim gets, the less control she's going to have, and this could end badly. So right now, we talked about the supervisors and Air Support Division in this pursuit, weighing all the dangers against the public against taking these suspects into custody, and that's what they have to manage. They have to figure out if they're going to continue to follow, if they're going to go into a tracking mode, a less aggressive stance, and just try to get them into custody.
That's like a pit maneuver is happening right now.
They almost did it.
That's right.
Here it goes.
There we go. Definitely.
You can see the suspect really trying to get away here. CHP comes in for that pit maneuver, trying to spin that back in, and just missed it that time, but they're going to try to do it again.
All right.
Now,
still managing to stay on the streets.
Yeah, very tense situation here, as you can see, as this continues on. Now, she has obviously picked up speed, trying to get away from that, and there's the pit maneuver as it comes around the corner. I may be watching a few seconds behind you, but now they still have to weigh, was the area of opportunity now gone now they're on a more residential street than more the commercial industrial street. That all comes in as a factor. They may not want to do it on a residential street because of the danger it poses to other pedestrians in the area.
It looks to me like she's picking up speed a little bit, as much as she can there. Certainly looks like she's going faster than she was before when she was down to 20 and 10 miles an hour. And again, other traffic, other vehicles on these streets. It's getting really dangerous now. Another pit maneuver. It looks like they're moving in. CHP narrowly missing this last one, but it looks like they're attempting to do another one.
And they just came off Florence Avenue, and you can see CHP trying to dislodge the rear end of that vehicle and get that momentum, that forward momentum and a side momentum, and then they're going to actually try to get her spun around and then block her in. That's usually enough to stop it, but you can see obviously that she's trying to get away at a faster pace, which presents another problem. Is taking that pit maneuver into play here? Is that causing the suspect to drive more recklessly? Is that or more dangerously and putting the public at large? These are all situations and all decisions that these supervisors have to make on the fly, second by second, to manage this and balance getting that suspect into custody and protecting the citizens.
Well, it's certainly the driver is absolutely a lot more aggressive now, trying to get away. Look at the high rate of speed on 3 tires and the CHP right behind them. She's definitely more aggressive right now. I'm doubtful with the damage to the car that this person would be able to control this car if they had to hit the brakes quickly.
And also, look how dangerous this is for these other cars who just happen to be in the area here, going through intersections. Dangerous for pedestrians too, and CHP right behind her there.
And now you see that she's going down the slow lanes, in and out of traffic, becoming a much more dangerous situation here on 3 tires. That's never a good thing for officers, and they may consider that. And you can see she's kind of fishtailing around here a little bit. Obviously, the faster she goes on 3 tires, the less control she's going to have. Always a dangerous situation here, and what they don't want to do here, and I can definitely tell they're in the county. We'll try to give you a cross street here. It looks like they're coming off Florence, and I believe they're going northbound of Air 7 when they pull out a little bit on those intersections. You can get a better idea of where they're actually at. But they are coming off Florence, and it looks like they are possibly going northbound, I believe. Here, we'll get you a side street.
Is this still Walnut Park, do you think, or have they moved out?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information right now.
Yeah, we're trying to find it as well.
Exact location for you right now from Air 7 HD. But again, it's they continue this pursuit. You can see people just kind of that were in the street or crossing the street, kind of running across the street as they see them coming. It's becoming. There's a lot of pedestrians out here on this warm evening.
Yeah, that is not good. There's a little child right there. Mom trying to run the kid out of there.
She was trying to get out. Now, okay, they're going into a parking lot here. This could be tricky. There's multiple police vehicles in that parking lot.
It seems to be a maneuver this driver has used.
What kind of, is this a gas station?
It looks like a gas station.
It is the Valero gas station.
Again, going through a parking lot, something the driver has been doing the entire time, going through parking lots, going out on the other side, and that was a scary situation just now with that little toddler.
Well, if you consider the fact that this car can't maneuver and probably can't brake very well, and they're that close to some people, including a little child, there's no way the child can get out of the way. Luckily, the mother was paying attention.
Now, there's a situation here, David and Rudabeh, that if this vehicle does come to a stop, there is a good chance that we've seen before in situations like that, especially with a female driver and a male passenger, which seems to be the case here. It's not verified yet. There is a good chance when this pursuit does terminate that passenger, the male suspect in this, may run. She may slow down to a point where the suspect runs. So you can be assured that more than likely they're going to focus on that passenger since he was the one throwing the evidence out of the vehicle. And if officers do have further information on what that may be wanted for, they may go after him primarily and the driver secondarily, which could be the case here. But we're going to see if that happens here. But we've seen that more times than not when the drivers and the passengers get out, that they may go after the passenger if they split up during a foot pursuit.
And really scary when it's a stolen vehicle like this, because officers really have no idea who's in that car. At least if it came up and was registered to the owner, they would have some idea of what they were dealing with, perhaps. But right now, they really have no indication except that it's a stolen car. They don't know if these people have been involved in other crimes, why they're running, what the frame of mind is right now. So just a lot of questions up in the air. We're told they're still in Walnut Park right now.
Fir Avenue, I understand. Fir Avenue in Walnut Park.
Yeah, they just turned off a Fir, and we're trying to verify which eastbound or westbound here, or that might be northbound. But yeah, Rudabeh, you nailed it there. They, come see almost sideswiping that car there. But that's exactly the case. And a lot of these times, unfortunately, the suspects steal these vehicles and they commit crimes that may be unreported crimes as of now and may have just happened. so they could have a lot more wants on what's going on here. So officers are trying to gather that information in real time as this pursuit's happening, talking to these other agencies, trying to get information about reported crimes. And those reported crimes actually have the same description as the vehicle involved here, to try to put something together so they have a little bit more information.
Yeah, and I mean, we did see the closest thing we could get to kind of the frame of mind was when they slowed down and made contact with someone who was standing, who was in another car there, was standing on the street rather. The passenger leaned out of the car and said something to that person. So we don't.
Wow! Look at all that. The smoke, the sparks.
Look how many how many CHP cars there are there.
You can see that U-turn in the street, and now it's becoming this kind of round-robin thing that we've seen on so many pursuits before, when never a good situation.
This is close to that point when these sparks fly like that. You often see a fire start on these vehicles. There's so many sparks flying out there. There's smoke. You see the smoke coming out as well. They can't drive like this forever, as we've said, and this car is slowly breaking down.
And we did just see the passenger hang out the window again. So there, can we get I'm getting kind of a shot of the driver, and a lot of sparks there flying.
Yeah, this car, like you said, David, is absolutely breaking down. If CHP is looking for another good spot, and a safe spot, I should say, to do a pit maneuver, but you can see all the sparks on that. That is just absolutely breaking down. And this has to come to an end soon before this car comes apart. And we've seen in situations like this before, that cars like this involved in this often catch on fire here at the end of pursuits. And if that's the case, that presents a whole other problem for officers and the suspects in the vehicle.
And another problem they're dealing with, people out on the streets taking photos and video, it looks like. Not a good idea. If this is in your neighborhood, you want to go inside. You do not want to approach this scene at all. You don't want to get close. This is a very precarious situation. It's unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen here. So definitely not a good idea to have people outside. There you can see the tire, well, no tire. You see the rim there completely broken down. As
JT said, it's going to be down to the axle pretty soon. It doesn't look like there's much left there. Clearly down to the brake pads at least. And if they do a pit maneuver, we've seen those go badly because vehicles go flying, and if there are people on the sidewalks, it's extremely dangerous. Although the CHP and what is that? Is that
furniture?
It looked like somebody throwing up. Maybe it's a shopping cart of some sort, trash can.
Yeah, and that's what you see, unfortunately, David, when this is on the air and people getting out and involved and trying to intervene, and trash cans are being thrown at the vehicles, and trying to get involved in this. And again, never a good idea. And they are in the area of near Compton, just east of Compton, and the Firestone area is what we're seeing, maybe close to Graham Avenue.
Okay. Well, we continue to watch this pursuit. We've been on this since about 7 o'clock this evening. It started just a few minutes before that. Apparently, a car stolen somewhere near Northridge. LoJack helped the sheriff's department track it down. Then the CHP was on the pursuit. The car did go from the 105 freeway south to the 110 freeway and exited around South LA. And then we basically have been seeing it kind of meander through these surface streets ever since. Has not got back on the freeways, but we did see a successful spike strip about 7:05 today. We saw that front driver's side tire go all the way down to where it's almost down to the axle right now. Very tough maneuvering for this car. A couple of pit maneuver attempts happened, weren't quite successful, but the CHP, as you can see, to really move. Every time it turns, hits the brakes, anything, the sparks really come out. But so far we haven't seen any fires start. But that car cannot, I mean, it's tough to keep that thing moving, but they refuse to give up, which, you know, it begs the question which we ask on every one of these pursuits, and this is the time we ask it, is why not give up? Because clearly you know where this is going to end. They're not going to get away.
Yeah, and there was smoke also coming out, not just sparks.
And that is, they're continuing westbound on 83rd Street in the Walnut Park area. They just passed through Compton, so they're starting to make their way back towards the city of Los Angeles. But again, you can see that they're starting to go in circles here. Not a good situation. This is something that the police have to figure.
everybody was standing there with a cell phone. Did you see that, JT? That crowd of, I don't know, what was it, 10 people standing there, and as the car went by, they all had their cell phones on, taking either video or photographs of it.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that this is unfortunately becoming more of a spectator sport here in the area, and it's so dangerous. And we see this more and more, and unfortunately, we've seen a rash of pursuits lately, David, in North Bay. We have seen just almost, now there are pursuits every day in Southern California, but most of them are very, very short, not these long pursuits, and we're seeing more and more of these every day, and it's concerning. It's concerning for law enforcement. It's concerning for everybody involved. It's concerning for the safety of the citizens, and getting these things under control as quickly as possible and as safely as possible is the main concern for law enforcement.
Yeah, and I believe this is the third pursuit today that we've had on our radar.
We have had
the other ones have been shorter, but
a number of pursuits have been in the newscast earlier today, in fact. But you're right; it does seem like something that's happened. Maybe it's the heat. I've worked in other markets where when the hot weather comes, that's when all these bad things start to happen, at least in the beginning.
The crime picks up.
Yeah. But, we didn't have much of a winter, but it does seem like that this winter has been one of those where it's kind of known for these high-profile pursuits.
They are now northbound in an alley from 83rd Street, just east of Central here. Now they're back in the city of Los Angeles. Again, the CHP still has the handle on this and handling it right now, but LAPD watching very, very closely and observing this pursuit in case these suspects do run.
Looking almost like it's coming to a stop, and then... So,
JT, what is the tactic there when we saw this vehicle, although let's watch closely as are they going to come to a halt, and are there...
Oh, picking back up again.
Did the driver put her hand out the window?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, there's speculation there might be taunting going on right now. But there's a guy on a bike going the wrong way down the street watching the pursuit. I wonder what I was going to ask you, JT, when she took that turn and there was a CHP vehicle only 5 feet away that clearly could have cut their path off, but in fact went the other way and moved out of the way. What is the tactic there? Clearly, they're not bent on absolutely stopping them.
Well, that answer is very prevalent in what we've been seeing here on the air, David. It is there are too many pedestrians out here, too many people out here. It is not safe to do a pursuit intervention technique or pit maneuver when there are so many pedestrians out, because that is unnecessarily endangering the public. For at this point, all they know is a stolen car pursuit. They do not want to spin out this vehicle and have that vehicle careen into any innocent civilians on the street. That is something that, again, needs to be managed very closely and very well by supervisors and Air Support Division. Now, the helicopters overhead, it cannot be overstated how important they are in these types of things, because they can see the big picture. They can look ahead 5, 6, 7 blocks and advise the pursuing officers what's coming up, what they need to be aware of, anywhere from vehicle cross traffic to pedestrians to dangerous ambush type situations. That's why it is so important to have that helicopter overhead with that night sun spotlight on that suspect, and also looking ahead to lock down that area if that suspect does run, and to give them advisories like that cross traffic you just saw go through. That suspect went right through that mid-phase red tri-light, and that cross traffic nearly hit that vehicle as she crossed through that intersection. And
that's a good point, JT. I mean, what happens when this finally does come to a stop if they are in this residential neighborhood? Often we see these pursuits end on a freeway or on a busy street, but here on a residential neighborhood, these suspects could go into anyone's house. They could go into yards to try to get away, and that is a very dangerous situation. They have to be thinking ahead to that scenario when it does come to a stop because of the nature of the neighborhood they're in.
Absolutely, and right now they are going southbound or continuing westbound from 79th Street from San Pedro back in the city of Los Angeles. And Rudy, you hit that on the head. And that's why it's so important for that helicopter to be overhead and those units to be close. When they do run through those backyards, what those officers do is they completely lock down that area in what's called a containment or a perimeter, where they get officers completely surrounding that area. It's not entirely necessary to run after that suspect through unfamiliar yards. They want to lock that suspect down into that perimeter and just make sure that they don't pop out on other streets or other areas and really lock it down and get canine units there or special weapons and tactics there if needed, if there's weapons involved or a barricade situation, and lock them down in that area. So that's exactly what's happening here. Both this California Highway Patrol, along with the sheriffs coordinating with LAPD, if these suspects get out in the city of Los Angeles and they start running, they're going to know exactly what to do, and LAPD is familiar with this area, and lock it down and take them into custody.
Well, we hope it happens soon as this continues to go. We're now at 7:51. We've been watching this pursuit for the better part of an hour now, and this driver just refuses to give up. However, we've seen the driver kind of lulled to a slower attitude, going extremely slowly, as you can see. And if you're just tuning in, we'll let you know that the car that this person is driving was hit with a spike strip a long time ago. And as you're looking closely, that front driver's side tire is no longer in existence. It's down to the rim, down to the axle more than likely, and maneuverability is extremely difficult. Nevertheless, even though this car is probably only capable of moving at a few miles per hour, as you can see, the driver and the passenger in this car are refusing to give up. We will tell you that, well, coming to a halt
now,
here. Let's see what happens.
This is about southbound Main at about 85th or 86th Street. Right now they're facing southbound
this is
on
a
LAPD
dangerous
Southeast Division.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Here's
He's going to take off and run.
Yep.
The passenger is running.
Just as you predicted, JT, the passenger may get out and take off running.
Yep, puts the hands up and does the notorious, I'm going to walk away and then I'm going to run.
And this is in the yard of a house.
Now, you can be assured LAPD Air Support is locking this down as officers are in close for pursuit. He's going to start hitting, he's going to go through driveways, hit fences, and start hitting backyards, which is pretty typical for what they do.
Right.
This is an area probably well known to the suspect. You can see he's going to hop a fence.
Oh, my gosh.
Air 7 HD maneuvering around. Now, right now, the idea is to lock this perimeter down. It's not entirely necessary to chase him through these backyards and on these rooftops or wherever it is. Now he's back on the street.
Did he just run into our news van? It looked like he did. Okay, so he just barely got away from CHP officers. He got through a gate or a fence.
That's a ABC. You can see an officer on he's hopping fences. He went right by our eyewitness news truck, back over a fence, now running through yards. Now, what they want to watch and make sure he's not reaching for a waistband. He's got a very large white sweatshirt on.
They're on him.
Very dangerous. They've got to watch his hands at all times.
Okay, they're on him right now.
They are putting hands on him right now. CHP officers are taking him into custody. They've got everybody on those corners. And it looks like you can't see it right now, but they are taking him into custody right near that truck.
Okay, so that suspect, that is the passenger in the vehicle, he did take off, as you predicted. They do have him in custody. We're sorry about losing the light. They pulled the light off of him, but there you can see the flashlights. There he is in custody. Officers were able to get him, but it was quite a pursuit, a foot pursuit. And we're hearing that our news vehicle might have somehow gotten stuck in the middle of that pursuit, and there might be an injury.
Yeah,
the officers ran right across that suspect. And also be advised, the female suspect is still in that vehicle. Right now, CHP officers, maybe along with LAPD, giving her orders and trying to prone her out. That suspect, the main suspect, the male is in custody. The female still in the vehicle, and it's unclear right now if she is complying with commands from the officers at the vehicle. We're going to take that shot back 9 and see where we're at on that.
There she is. She's getting out right now. It looked like she had to reach around outside to open the door.
Yes.
And the door is now open. She's surrounded by law enforcement officers. The passenger has been detained. In the air.
She's showing them their hands.
This is a very carefully choreographed situation with what they do. They have them do this every single way, the same way every time. They're going to have them come out of the vehicle, raise their hands, possibly turn around. It depends on the CHP, and every agency's got a little bit different tactic on how they do it. Sometimes the CHP actually will have her walk back to the sound of their voice with the hands up. You can see the female it's complying with that so far. Looks a little dazed, looks a little unsure of herself. Not really taking the commands too well.
Under the influence, possibly.
Possibly. It looks that way.
Yeah, you'd almost, I mean, it's not surprising. That's all I'll say. What's interesting as we continue to watch this is, I know it happened quickly, but during that foot pursuit, and you'll notice the canine unit is right there and standby too, which is extremely intimidating if you're the person getting arrested. If they could always deploy the dog if you don't abide by what they're saying, but it looks like everything's going smoothly so far. But back to
this is on.
Go ahead.
This is on Main at 84th Place, Dave and Rudabay. Just wanted to update that. I may have said 86 earlier, but it's 84th Place, which is a couple blocks further north. They are facing southbound, and that almost looks like it's L.A. County Sheriff's K-9. It does not look like a CHP K-9, even though they are using that CHP vehicle for cover. That is L.A. County Sheriff's K-9 deployed in the area.
Well, okay, so we saw this foot pursuit. We saw the CHP, this guy really gave them a run, and he just barely got out of their grasp, and it did look like one of the officers made a very aggressive move towards him, dove at that suspect, just missed him, but then ran into...
Red sedan, they have secured it to make sure no one else is inside that car.
All right, so this has been quite a pursuit. It started just before 7 o'clock. A car reported stolen out of Northridge. They spotted it. The Sheriff's Department spotted it with a low jack system on the 105 freeway. It jumped to the 110 to South LA, and then that's where we picked it up, and it went for quite some time, but 2 people now in custody.